Imagine you're standing at the edge of everything you thought you knew about war. You've studied every species in the galaxy, cataloged their strengths, memorized their weaknesses. You know exactly how long it takes a Vorthak to bleed out, which pressure points drop a colony in 3 seconds flat. But there's one species your war college never prepared you for. One species that doesn't follow the rules. The old warrior's eyes held something you'd never seen before. Not fear, not respect. Something worse. Pity. You've never faced humans before. What happens when the apex predators of the galaxy discover they're not alone at the top of the food chain? What happens when creatures who think war is a science meet creatures who treat it as an art? Some lessons can only be learned in blood, and some teachers never let their students survive the curriculum. Personal log, Combat Analyst Vex High. A Hegemony Fleet Command. Timestamp, 1734 Standard. Note, coffee dispenser still broken. Day 6, morale, questionable. I've been staring at this tactical display for 3 hours now. The numbers don't lie. They never do. 37 Hegemony battle cruisers, each one a masterpiece of Kethmori engineering. Plasma shields rated for direct star exposure. Kinetic barriers that could stop asteroid impacts. Crew complements trained from hatching in 17 different combat doctrines. Against one damaged human frigate. Timestamp, 1735. The prisoner exchange was supposed to be routine. Standard diplomatic protocol. We hold their wounded ship captain. They hold our deep reconnaissance operative. Simple trade in neutral space. Commander Thexavol briefed us yesterday. 15 minutes of tactical analysis. Humans fight like cornered vermin, he said, mandibles clicking in that way that meant he was pleased with himself. Unpredictable, but ultimately inefficient. They rely on emotion rather than proven strategy. I should have paid more attention to the way he paused before saying, inefficient. Timestamp, 1736. Personal note, someone needs to fix the damn coffee dispenser. The human frigate dropped out of FTL exactly on schedule. Coordinates perfect. Navigation flawless despite visible hull breaches along her port side. Atmosphere leaking in controlled vents. They'd jury-rigged emergency seals with what looked like cargo netting and thermal paste. Improvisation. Thexavol's briefings called it a weakness. Maintain standard formation, came the order across Fleet Comm. Weapons hot but not targeted. By the book. 37 ships arranged in a perfect sphere, every angle covered, every escape vector blocked. The human ship hung in the center like a broken toy. That's when I noticed the old warrior. Timestamp, 1740. He wasn't on any of our tactical displays, not officially. Just another prisoner on the exchange manifest. But the bridge crew of the human frigate kept glancing at him through their viewports. Quick looks, the kind you give someone whose opinion matters more than rank would suggest. He was ancient by human standards. Gray hair, lined face, moving with the careful economy of someone whose body had absorbed more damage than it could fully repair. But his eyes swept our formation once, just once, and I swear I saw his lips twitch. Not fear, not even respect for our overwhelming superiority. Our amusement. Timestamp, 1741. Personal note, found emergency coffee packets in survival kit. Breakthrough. Prepare for prisoner transfer, Thexvol announced. Standard protocols, minimal crew exposure. The exchange shuttle launched from our flagship. Clean trajectory. Professional execution. Everything by doctrine. The human shuttle launched 30 seconds later. Same trajectory, same professional execution. They met halfway between the fleets. Prisoners transferred. Shuttles returned to their respective ships. Textbook operation. I should have been filing the incident report. Routine diplomatic contact. Mission successful. Instead, I kept watching the old warrior. Timestamp, 1743. He was back on the human bridge now. I could see him through their main viewport, speaking quietly to their captain, pointing at something on their tactical display. The captain's expression changed, from resignation to something else. Anticipation. "Aye, Fleet Commander," came a voice from our sensor station. "I'm reading an anomaly." "Specify," Thexval ordered. "The human frigate. Their reactor signature is fluctuating." On the tactical display, the human ship's energy output spiked and dropped in irregular patterns, random power variations, system instability. "Engine failure," someone suggested. "Reactor cascade," another voice offered. Thexval's mandibles clicked. Satisfaction. "They're breaking down. Maintain formation but prepare for debris cleanup. We can't have a reactor breach in neutral space. Timestamp 1745. That's when the human frigate exploded. Not catastrophically, not all at once. Controlled detonations across her hull. Engineering sections venting plasma, command structures collapsing in sequence. Beautiful, really, like watching a building demolition conducted with surgical precision. "All ships, maintain position," Thexval commanded. "I do not approach the debris field until we've confirmed radiation levels. Standard procedure, smart thinking. The last thing you want is to contaminate your hull with radioactive particles from a failing reactor. Except timestamp 1747. Personal note, coffee tastes like recycled coolant. Still better than nothing. The explosion pattern was wrong. I've seen reactor failures, plasma containment breaches, catastrophic engine overloads. They don't look like that. They don't follow that sequence. This looked choreographed. "Sensor sweep," I called out, forgetting protocol. "Full spectrum, now." "Analyst Vex High," Thexval's voice carried a warning. "Maintain your station." "Commander, the debris field is being scanned according to standard protocols." But I was already running the numbers. Explosion vectors, energy dispersal patterns, debris trajectories, and finding gaps. Timestamp 1749. "Commander," my voice cracked slightly. "Not the human life pods. What about them? Where are they?" Silence on the bridge. The kind of silence that happens when everyone realizes they've been thinking about the wrong problem entirely. 23 crew members on that frigate. Standard complement for that class of ship. When a vessel suffers catastrophic failure, procedure is immediate evacuation to emergency pods. We should have been tracking 23 separate life pod signatures. We weren't tracking any. "See, expanded sensor sweep," Thexval ordered, and I could hear his certainty starting to crack. "All ships, full active scans. Locate those pods." Timestamp 1752. The first mine detonated against our flagship's starboard shield array. Not a devastating hit, barely registered on tactical displays, just a minor energy discharge that sent ripples across our plasma barriers. But it meant they were already among us. "Contact!" someone screamed from sensor control. "Multiple contacts! Small craft! The stealth configured." The tactical display lit up like a festival celebration. Dozens of contacts materializing from what had been empty space, moving fast, moving toward us. "All weapons, open fire," Thexval commanded. "Pattern Delta formation, protect the command vessels." Timestamp 1754. But the humans weren't attacking the command vessels. They were attacking our engines. Precision strikes, surgical cuts. Each small craft carrying exactly enough firepower to cripple propulsion systems without triggering secondary explosions. They weren't trying to destroy us. They were trying to trap us. And I realized, with the kind of clarity that comes right before panic sets in, that the old warrior had been counting our ships, not assessing our threat level. Counting inventory. Timestamp 1756. Personal note, coffee cup empty. Hands shaking. Coincidence. "How many?" Thexval demanded. How many craft did they launch?" 43 confirmed contacts, came the response. "Possibly more. They're using the debris field for cover." 43, 23 crew members, plus 20 additional pilots, which meant the human frigate hadn't been carrying refugees or prisoners or evacuees. She'd been carrying a strike force. The explosion hadn't been a malfunction. It had been a delivery system. Timestamp, 1758. New contact. The sensor operator's voice pitched higher. A large signature approaching from Galactic South. It's big. Through the main viewport, I watched a shape resolve out of the black. Not a frigate this time. Something larger, much larger. Human dreadnought. Battle-scarred hull. Weapons ports already cycling to active status, and painted across her bow in symbols that our translation matrix couldn't quite parse, a name that somehow managed to sound like a threat even without context. "A signal from the human dreadnought," our communications officer announced. "They're requesting to speak with our fleet commander." Thexval straightened his posture, smoothed his ceremonial armor. "Put them through." The face that appeared on our main display was weathered, scarred, and utterly calm. The same face I'd seen on the bridge of the exploding frigate. The old warrior. Timestamp, 1800. "Hegemony Fleet Commander," he said, in accented but precise standard. "I am Admiral Chen Wei, Terran Defense Force. You are currently surrounded by 43 strike craft, each armed with ship-killer charges. Your engines have been disabled. Your escape routes have been eliminated." Thexval's mandibles clicked rapidly. Stress response. "This is an act of war, human. We came here for a peaceful prisoner exchange." "Yes," Admiral Chen agreed. "You did, and we honored that agreement. Our exchange was completed successfully." He paused, and I saw that same expression I'd noticed earlier. Not cruel, not angry, just patient. However, our intelligence indicates this fleet was planning to glass 3 civilian colonies after completing the exchange. "That's accurate," Chen interrupted. "We've been monitoring your communications for the past 6 months. Your orders were quite explicit." Timestamp, 1802. The bridge fell silent. Because Admiral Chen was right, and everyone knew it. The civilian strikes had been classified above my clearance level. I out. I should mention that attempting to fight your way out would be inadvisable. "You're outnumbered," Thexval said, but his voice lacked conviction. 37-1. Admiral Chen smiled. The expression didn't reach his eyes. "Commander," he said quietly, you've never faced humans before." Timestamp, 1803. Personal note, I think I need something stronger than coffee. Personal log, Combat Analyst Vexhai, Hegemony Fleet Command. Timestamp, 1804 Standard. Note, located emergency alcohol rations, emergency status, confirmed. What happened next violated everything I thought I knew about warfare. Thexval tried negotiation first, standard diplomatic protocols, offered to discuss terms, requested time to contact higher authority. Admiral Chen waited. Just waited. His image remained on our display, hands clasped behind his back, while our sensors continued to track those 43 strike craft weaving through our disabled fleet like predators testing wounded prey. "Admiral," Thexval said, and I could hear him searching for the right combination of authority and desperation. "Our ships carry over 40,000 crew members. Surely we can reach some accommodation that doesn't require 41,000. A 732, Chen corrected quietly. "We've been monitoring your crew manifests as well." Timestamp, 1806. The precision of that number hit the bridge like a physical blow. Chen wasn't guessing. He wasn't estimating. He knew exactly how many souls we had in this fleet, which meant he'd been planning this encounter for far longer than any of us had realized. "How?" Thexval's voice came out smaller than intended. Your prisoner exchange requests included crew rotation schedules, Chen explained with the patience of someone explaining basic mathematics. Transport manifests, supply requisitions. We've been analyzing your operational patterns for months. I found myself checking my chronometer obsessively. 1806. Still 1806. Time seemed stuck, crystallized around this moment where everything I understood about tactical advantage was being systematically dismantled. The timestamp, 1807. Personal note. Emergency alcohol tastes worse than emergency coffee. Engineering breakthrough. You're bluffing, Thexval said, but conviction had left his voice entirely. You don't have the firepower to threaten this many ships. Chen's expression didn't change. Computer, display tactical projection Omega. The view screen split. Chen's image remained on the left side. The right side showed us, our fleet formation from the outside. 37 ships arranged in perfect geometric precision just as doctrine required. Each vessel highlighted in blue with crew numbers, weapons capacity, shield strength, and engine status scrolling in neat columns beside them. Engine status, disabled. All of them. How did you... Thexval started. Your maintenance schedules, Chen interrupted. Engine efficiency reports, fuel consumption patterns. We've known the exact specifications of your drive systems for 8 months. It wasn't difficult to develop charges specifically designed to disable them without causing catastrophic damage. The tactical display zoomed in on one of our destroyers. The image was sharp enough to show individual hull plates, sharp enough to reveal the small, precisely placed charges attached to critical engine components, charges that were still there, still armed. Timestamp, 1810. Every ship in your fleet is currently carrying between 6 and 12 explosive devices, Chen continued. Enough to permanently disable propulsion, but not enough to threaten crew safety. Unless, of course, someone tries to restart their engines before we've safely removed the charges. I watched Commander Thexval's face cycle through several different expressions. Disbelief, anger, calculation, and finally something approaching respect. The frigate, Thexval said. The explosion. You sacrificed a ship and crew to position your strike teams. We sacrificed a ship, Chen agreed. The crew evacuated in stealth pods 18 hours ago. What you saw exploding was an automated wreck filled with carefully designed pyrotechnics and 43 very motivated volunteers in strike armor. Time stamp, 1812. 43 volunteers. I kept coming back to that number. Not conscripts. Not drafted soldiers following orders. People who had chosen to climb into tiny one-person craft and fly directly into the middle of an enemy fleet, because someone they trusted had asked them to. Oh, this is impossible, our tactical officer muttered. Our sensors would have detected... Your sensors detected exactly what we wanted them to detect, Chen interrupted. We've been studying hegemony technology for 3 years, since your last incursion into Terran space. Your sensor arrays are quite sophisticated, but they operate on predictable frequencies. The tactical display shifted again, this time showing sensor sweeps from our own ships, playing back the last hour in accelerated time. But I watched our instruments faithfully tracking the approach of a damaged frigate, recording energy signatures, monitoring communications, all of it fabricated, all of it designed to make us see exactly what we expected to see. Timestamp, 1814. Personal note, alcohol no longer tastes bad, possibly concerning. You're asking us to surrender our entire fleet, Thexval said, based on the threat of 43 small craft. I'm not asking for anything, Chen replied. And I'm explaining your current situation and allowing you to make an informed decision. And if we refuse? Chen was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice carried the weight of someone who had made these kinds of calculations before. Commander, your orders included targeting 3 civilian settlements, a mining colony with 14,000 inhabitants, an agricultural station with 6,000, a research outpost with 800. He paused. So those settlements have children. Timestamp, 1816. The bridge fell completely silent. Because yes, those had been our orders. And yes, we all knew what civilian targeting meant in practical terms. But hearing it stated so simply, so directly, made something cold settle in my chest. So you see, Chen continued, from my perspective, this isn't a negotiation about fleet surrender. This is a conversation about whether 41,000, 732 military personnel are worth more than 28,800 civilians. I found myself doing the mathematics, the tactical calculations, force ratios, strategic value, risk assessment, and realizing that by every metric that mattered, Admiral Chen held every advantage. Not because his ships were stronger, not because his weapons were superior, but because he had turned our own operational doctrine against us. Timestamp 1818. How long have you been planning this? Thexval asked. Planning is the wrong word, Chen replied. We've been preparing for this kind of encounter since first contact. Your species has a predictable approach to conflict resolution. Predictable? You rely on overwhelming force and superior technology. You assume that numerical advantage translates directly to battlefield control. You plan for victory, not adaptation. Chen's expression remained neutral, but I caught something else in his voice. Not condescension, something closer to disappointment. It works well against species that fight the same way you do. Timestamp 1820. And humans don't fight that way. Humans fight to win, Chen said simply. Everything else is negotiable. I thought about the volunteers in those strike craft, flying alone into impossible odds because someone had convinced them it was the right thing to do. I thought about the crew of that frigate. They're willing to sacrifice their ship and stage their own deaths to position assets for an operation. I thought about Admiral Chen himself, standing calmly on the bridge of a single dreadnought, surrounded by an enemy fleet, holding a conversation about the mathematical value of civilian lives. Timestamp 1822. Personal note. Found additional alcohol. Research continues. You have 15 minutes to discuss this among your command staff, Chen said. After that, I'll need a decision. And if we choose to fight? Chen's smile returned. Still didn't reach his eyes. Commander, he said, 43 strike craft is what you can see. What makes you think that's all we brought? The connection closed. Timestamp 1824. The next 13 minutes were the longest of my military career. Thexval consulted with his senior staff, reviewed tactical options, discussed the possibility of fighting our way out with disabled engines and an unknown number of enemy assets in close proximity. I kept thinking about that number, 41,732. Chen hadn't been threatening us. He'd been accounting for us, making sure he knew exactly how many people he was responsible for keeping alive, including us. Timestamp 1835. Admiral Chen? Thexval's voice was steady when the connection reopened. We surrender. Chen nodded once. Wise decision. My teams will begin removing the engine charges immediately. Your crews will remain at stations but will not attempt to restart propulsion until we've cleared all devices. Understood. Your ships will be escorted to Neutral Station Gamma for processing. Crews will be held under standard prisoner protocols until diplomatic arrangements can be made. And the civilian strikes? Chen's expression hardened slightly. Will not be happening. Timestamp 1837. Over the next 6 hours, I watched human engineering teams move through our fleet with mechanical precision, small craft docking at critical points. Technicians in powered armor removing explosive devices with the casual competence of people performing routine maintenance. No wasted motion, No unnecessary conversation, just professionals doing work they'd clearly practiced extensively. Timestamp 0043. Personal note: alcohol research concluded. Of findings, unhelpful but educational. The thing that stayed with me wasn't the tactical brilliance, wasn't the operational planning, wasn't even the moral clarity that had driven the entire operation. It was the volunteers, 43 people who had climbed into strike craft and flown into the middle of an enemy fleet because someone they trusted had explained why it mattered, because someone had convinced them that 28,800 civilian lives were worth the risk. Me, final log entry, Combat Analyst Vex High. Timestamp 0815 Standard. Location, Neutral Station Gamma, Detention Level 7. I've been thinking about Admiral Chen's words. You've never faced humans before. He wasn't talking about tactics, wasn't talking about technology or firepower or strategic doctrine. He was talking about something else entirely. The willingness to sacrifice a ship to position assets. The patience to study an enemy for months before engaging. Had the precision to disable rather than destroy. The calculations that valued enemy lives almost as highly as friendly ones. But most of all, the ability to convince 43 volunteers that flying into impossible odds was the right thing to do, because they trusted the person asking. Personal note: coffee dispenser in detention facilities works perfectly. Sometimes surrender has unexpected benefits. End log.